Hello everyone, this is Mr. G. I'll be showing you the quick and dirty way to set up your image planes. I'll be showing you two different scenarios, one where you have the front and the side view all in the same image, and the other with different images. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is you want to go to your for view. You want to go to your for view right here. And ideally you want one for every orthographic view, the top, the front, and the side. However, you could get away with just having one on the front or just one on the front and the side. The top is the least priority. So what you're going to do is you're going to make an image plane. And you're going to go to create polygon primitive plane. And you're going to hit options. And I like to make my image plane with only one division. So 1, 1, 1, 1. We'll resize it later, it'll be much bigger, but I'm just going to create one image plane. And it's probably best to hit 6 on each window just to get started. So I'm pressing 6 so that I can see the UV map that is not there right now. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a surface to it. So I'm going to right click, hold, and choose Assign Favorite Material, and choose Lambert, just like the sheepish lion Lambert. My attribute editor will open up, and then I have to go to color, and I choose the checkerboard box. Now the first drawing I'm going to choose is one that has the front and the side view all together. And this one I pulled off the internet, and I'm forgetting who to give credit for, but it's this knight figure. So if I had these three, the front and the side view, and then the top view for the hand, I'm just going to make one image plane with all three views on it, and then I'm going to duplicate it. The first thing I need to do is I need to scale it. So I'm going to hit R, click on it, and then hit R. And I'm going to scale it so that he is about 7 feet tall. And I'm just going to use my top view, even though this was going to be the front view. And the other issue I'm having with this one is the original image for this is a rectangle, a 4x3 rectangle. The image plane I'm using is a square. So I'm just going to eyeball it, but I'm actually going to make them a little bit wider so that it gets back to its normal size shape. I'm going to then move him so that his feet are touching the ground here, and I'm going to give him about a 7-unit height. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cubes. I'm going to make him a 7-foot tall knight. So I need to shrink him down now. So hit R again. I'm going to make him a little smaller. Notice I'm grabbing the yellow scale button, not the blue or the red. I'm trying to universally scale him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I got to make him a little bigger. Once again, a little bit bigger. Move him in place. And then the next step is to make sure that he is bisecting on the origin right here. So I might want to zoom in. And maybe I'll go to front view and really just make sure that he is being cut right in half by this the darker origin line. And that is looking pretty good. Now, this is the top view. I'm actually going to move this one. But for now, I'm going to make a front view and a side view. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to press Command D. And I have a second one that I'm going to move back here. And now I need to rotate this one so that it's facing on the Z plane. So the best way to rotate it is to go to my channel box over here. And for the X-axis, to get him to the front view, I'm just going to rotate by a quarter turn, which is 90 degrees. Now that that's set for that, I'm going to go to the front view, and I have to replace his feet up there. Notice I'm not going to scale him anymore. Once I've scaled him once, I don't want to scale him anymore. That way see how he's the same height in all three? This way he's going to stay the same height with all three views. So I don't want to manipulate him anymore. So he's staying here, and that looks pretty good. He's being bisected by the front view. And now I need to make a side view. So I'm going to hit Command D again, and now I have a side view over here on my perspective view. And now I'm going to rotate it. This time I'm going to rotate it along the Y. Now I want to make sure that his foot here is facing the forward direction. Some of you might have to type in -90, but for me, that's the foot facing backwards. Others are just going to have to type in 90, like so. Now I have the side view here, and I'm going to line this one up down this axis. And it's going to line up relatively right around there. Again, I'm trying to get the X to bisect him in half. It's not as symmetrical as the front view, and this is just a guide. So my front view is bisected by the Y axis, same as the side view is bisected by the Y axis. Now the last thing I do is correct my top view. So my top view, the shoulder, this little arm here is going to be used for the top view. That's what I'm going to use to guide my arm from the top down. So I actually want to rotate this guy, my ground view, on the y-axis by 90 degrees. And now he's in place. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I need to get him lined up in my perspective view. I need to get the shoulder and the body lined up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my front view, and now I'm going to grab the top view, the side, and line up the arm like so. So it's being bisected by this plane here for a second. I'm going to shove it over to the side here and just line up his shoulder with the shoulder from the front view. This way I have a pretty even spot of where to start and use the arm as a guide. Now I'm going to shove this one down beyond the grid plane so I can see it. Once again, I'm doing that down beyond the grid plane so I can actually see the grid. And I'm going to move him back to the edge of the grid over here just to kind of keep it out of the way a little bit, and this guy over here, just so I have room to work with in the perspective, just so I don't accidentally click stuff. Now the last thing to do is to just lock everything in place. So I'm going to grab all three, and then I select all of these and right click and choose lock selected. Once again, that's called lock selected. And I've selected all three, and now I can't move, rotate, or scale any of them. They're all locked in place. That way I can't mess with them. I can easily unlock them by selecting all three of them, right clicking, and choosing unlock selected. They're all there and they're all ready to go. Then I'm going to save it and call it night start, and this is for 6 period. The next thing I'm going to do is quickly show you how to do it if you have something that has 3 different pictures. There's one extra step. So that'll be the next video, is how to do 3 separate videos. Hello everyone again, this is Mr. G with part 2 of setting up your image planes. I'm going to also demonstrate how to set up an image plane by using 3 separate images rather than just one. So 1 extra step or 2 extra steps that involve rescaling the size of the pictures to make sure that they're perfectly aligned. So I'm going to make another image plane, create polygon primitives plane options. I'm going to make it white 1 1 1 1 width, height, all 1. And I have my image here. I'm going to go press 6 on each one just so it shows up everywhere. On my plane, I'm going to right click, choose assign favorite material, and choose Lambert. Now in my attribute editor here, it should open up. I should have a color bar, and I'm going to choose this little checkerboard box over here, and I'm going to choose File. Now after choosing File, I hit the folder icon, and I'm going to choose Bare Front. I'm going to start off with my front view, but I'm going to use a top and a side view. I'm going to hit Open, and the bear appears right there, and it looks pretty good. Now, the first thing what I want to do is I'm just going to use my top view to scale it. It's going to wind up being my front view. Let's rotate to the front view first, and I'll just scale it on my front view instead. So here is my bear. I'm going to go to my channel box right here, and I'm going to click on my bear plane, and I'm going to rotate it along the x-axis 90 degrees. So now it's facing perfectly right there in my front view. Now I'm going to resize it, and I'm going to make my bear about 7 feet. I'm going to use the units here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to have to scale him pretty big. I'm going to hit R, scale my plane. Some of you might be asking, why not make the plane 7 or 8 feet from the start? You could also do that. And I'm going to make sure he's standing on the ground. And he might be a little taller than I first said he was going to be. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sure, he's a polar bear. He could be a little taller. So that is my 8-foot tall bear. The image squeezed it. My original image here was a little bit more rectangular than the image plane here. So I could also scale it. By pressing R and just kind of making him as fat or skinny as I want this bear. Now it will look a little distorted if you go too far, but just going to make him a little plumper because we all like plump bears. There you go. And that's my front view. All right. Now that I have this general size shape, I'm going to duplicate it. The easiest way to do that is Command D. I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate. And now I have a second one right on top. I'm going to rotate it again. This time I'm going to rotate it along the Z axis. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. My bad. I'm going to rotate it along the Y axis 90 degrees and bring the Z back to Z. And life be good. And there it is for my side view. Now, it's the same size. I'm going to push it back so I can see the grid a little bit. It's the same size and it's the same image, but I want my side view to appear here. So I'm going to right click over it, assign a favorite material, and make a second Lambert. Crazy, I know. And then the Lambert didn't show up there, but it's on the tab in my attribute editor here. It's a new Lambert. I'm going to go to color, and then I go to the checkerboard box, and I'm going to choose file, and then the side view. So now I'm going to look for bear side. And here's the bear on the side, and I hit open, and it's almost the same. It's a little small. And here's where I want it nice and lined up. So I need to scale this a little bit bigger so that his nose, the top of his head, and his feet line up relatively the same. So with a nice close look, I'm going to hit scale for R. Hit R for scale. And I'm going to grab the universal one and make it bigger until he fits as best I can. And I am just eyeballing it right now. And so it looks like he's a little tall, but I want to push him down a little bit. And it will kind of change everywhere you look on your perspective. So eventually, you're going to want to double check your side view here as well. And they're pretty much proportional. The top of his ear, his toes reach down a little bit below, so I'm going to push him up just a little bit, like that, so that he's touching the ground. And then I want to make sure the top of his ears are at the same spot. So his ears are a little bit below that grid, and we're using the grid as reference. So he's a little bit too big because his ears are touching the top. I can do two things. Make him taller here, make him shorter here. Since his ears are touching the top, I'm going to make this guy, the front view, bigger. Scale. I'm just going to pull him out universally until the ears touch, but notice his feet drop down a little bit. So I'm going to pull him up ever so much. And now his feet are touching the ground, or the plane here, and the ears are also touching the top box. Now I know they're both relatively scaled the same way, and I can kind of, it looks almost 3D, if I kind of switch between each one. Now his nose is a little off, but that's okay, because I'm mostly going to be using the nose from the side view. So now I'm ready for the top view. I'm going to duplicate this front view right here and rotate him back so it's flat on the ground. So I get Command D, and then I'm going to just erase the rotation I've already done along the X. Bring it back to 0, and now I have the front view, or the plane for the front view right here. Now I'm matching it up with his arms on my perspective. You're going to see why in a second. So now I'm going to hit right click. I have to add a third Lambert surface. Lambert. And then I'm going to choose color, the checkerboard box, file, and I'm going to go to the folder and find my top view. So now that I've hit my top view, I'm now going to line it up so that arms are aligned with the top view's arms. So I'm going to have to move it, W, so that it is aligned, his shoulders are aligned with his hands, and they're relatively the same length. Now you notice the top view box is a little bit bigger. So I'm going to rescale it so that they fit relatively the same length. So I look at this angle, that angle, they're pretty good, and then I'm going to move it so that it fits relatively where his hands are. Now I'm going to push that down below the grid, and again I'm going to count to where his hands are, and his hands are kind of halfway between this box, and his hands are kind of halfway between that box. So I'm pretty much set. When I'm all said and done, I'm just going to take this guy, move it back beyond the grid, take the side view, move it back beyond the grid, take the bottom view, or top view, and just kind of push it down. Select all three, go to my channel box, and lock them. Select this guy, shift select this guy, right click, and lock. And that is how you set up your image planes with 3 separate images. Remember, it's key to make sure they're all the same scale so that when you model it, nothing's out of proportion. That's all I've got for today, and good luck with your image planes and your model.